welcome to this episode of Think Business. Looking forward to talking with Jon Marvin, President, CEO, TSO, Texas State Optical. Jon, I'm looking forward to talking with you. I want to give a quick bio. You're appointed to this position in 2001 when the franchisees purchased the company. During the time as president of the organization, you opened up over 80 new startup locations throughout Texas. I was born in San Antonio, by the way, and was listed as the 16th largest optical retail chain in the United States by Vision Monday in the spring of 2022. You're a student of leadership, and I'm looking forward to talking with you because I think the whole story is going to help a lot of people. I'm a business coach, and I work with people who are stuck, and I get them unstuck and help them grow their business. You know, one of the things I'd like to kick off with, Jon, is, you know, as somebody who is seasoned in business, grown, scaled, etc., what's the biggest lesson you've learned in business?
To sum it up in one, I would have to say that it's about the relationship.
Jon, you're on silent. You broke your microphone isn't working.
About that.
There we go.
Didn't realize it was muted. I would say the biggest lessons I've learned is the importance of knowing how to build and maintain relationships that offer mutual value to each other.
Yeah.
Because in my job, in my position with the organization, it's really about fostering those relationships with our customers, which are optometrists.
Yeah.
And making sure there's value in that. But at the same time, I've got a whole supplier and industry, this eye care world, that I couldn't do it without partnerships with vendors and others that are suppliers, because we're at the street level, a retail and service business, and I've got to have those. So I would say the ability to build and sustain relationships of value with one another.
Yeah. Where do you think companies do you think more companies do it right or do it wrong on that?
Do it wrong.
So why do they do it so wrong, do you think? Because it's really not that, when you really think about it, it's not that difficult to be kind and conscientious and follow up, right? I mean, you could go back to everything we learned in kindergarten type of poem. So why do you think companies, I see it all the time as a business coach, right? I go into companies and they're making such fundamental mistakes, but they don't see it, right? It's hidden in plain sight to me. They don't see it. So why do you think so many companies do it wrong and or don't see it?
Well, I think that part of it is the fact that as a culture, we've become so transactional. And those transactions start with a priority on ourselves.
Yeah.
And that becomes a mindset. And when that mindset begins to override your judgment in basic relationships, whether it's customers or frankly, even colleagues within the office, then it's rechanging that mindset to focus on the other individual, and basically and taking the approach of how can I bring value to Jon today?
Yeah.
And forget about myself, because if I build value in the relationship that you and I have only recently started,
right,
then we'll both want to maintain that relationship over time, which will create other opportunities. So I think it starts with a cultural kind of dominance of this transactional experience that we have, focusing on ourselves.
I love it. Thank you for that. I would agree with that. You know, it's transactions are very science based, and I think sometimes people forget about the art of the business.
Mm-hmm.
And there's art and science in every piece of it, and taking time, think community, to reflect and see where things are good and where things aren't working within your organization, and rewind and rebuild. I want to ask you a question, Jon, as a mentor. You are a believer in customer centric approaches. That's how you build your business. You write a column in Envision magazine on leadership and management. So, as a mentor to the Think community, what would you dive a little bit deeper into some simple advice that's so simple it's complicated, on how to kind of evolve to the next level as it pertains to leadership and management?
Well, I think that one of the things that I would tell my younger self, I'll put it in that context. So,
Yeah,
if I had an opportunity to mentor my younger self, I would say, first and foremost, take 100% responsibility for your life
yeah,
and your success, I guess would
yeah,
be another way of saying it, and realize that you have far more influence over the outcome of whatever you're doing than you might realize. And we tend to limit our or kind of understanding and therefore limit ourselves. So first of all, I would say take 100% responsibility for
yeah,
your own. And then knowing that, then I would advise to take a very strong commitment towards personal growth. People tend to believe that just living creates growth, and it doesn't. I mean, I'm sure you and I both know people that are in their 60s and they've never really personally grown their own understanding and ability since they were in their 20s or 30s,
yeah,
because their life becomes just a repetitive routine
yeah,
without ever stopping and being intentional about how to personally put yourself on a growth plan.
yeah,
And I learned that later than I wish I had,
yeah,
but I learned it.
yeah,
And to the point where now it's an annual exercise that I've had in place for the last 10, 15 years, where I actually plan my personal growth for the upcoming year.
yeah,
And, every morning there's parts of that plan that I execute. And just like any other plan, you modify it as you go, but the end objective doesn't change.
yeah,
And so my mentoring of my younger self would be take a responsibility and then sit down and put together a written personal growth plan that again can be modified. Plans change, goals don't. And but start doing it, because the the opportunity that comes with incremental improvement daily is far surpasses the home run everybody looks for.
yeah.
And
Love
so
it.
those would be two pieces
Yeah,
that I would put a tremendous amount of emphasis on, whether it's myself or my people that work for me, that I often have these types of conversations
yeah.
with.
No, I feel the same way. So I'm a business coach. I have my coaching company. I also have another company called Launch Three, and it's a platform for basically people to grow of all ages. And we're actually doing a 2.0 version where we're launching 200 micro courses, and then we're adding every single week. It's amazing. But one of the things we talk about in it is building a life plan. And we actually interviewed Howard Behar, who's a former president of Starbucks, who they refer to as the soul of Starbucks. And he, in his interview with us, talked about how he and his wife every year go on a retreat where they build their life plan for the year. And I see, going back to your our initial part of our discussion on the lesson, I think most companies I see, they're building business plans, but they're not giving their people a business plan and a life plan. And if you can kind of morph those to let them know that it's also about the bottom line and their well-being, I think you get more out of your people. I think you get more out of your people. And a word you used earlier, which I really love, is intention, right? What's the intention?
I look at it as the more I can help the people that I work with, the work report to me or work in our organization, the
Yeah,
more I can help them build a life plan, a personal growth plan,
right,
then they become more valuable to the organization.
right, right,
And then there becomes something that's more tangible in terms of compensation
right.
increases. And what if you're bringing more value, then you deserve more money.
Yeah,
If you're not bringing more value, then the fact that you're warming a chair for another year doesn't mean I'm obligated to pay you more money.
right. But also, if you can build them from the inside out and they can
Hmm.
connect more intrinsically to the company and the people who got them to their next level of not only business potential, but personal potential, great things happen for all. Great things happen for all. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
The other thing that I've noticed as I've gotten older and been in this more of an executive position is I almost not almost I do feel an obligation because I have a young lady that reports to me that's in her late 30s and very talented individual, and I now take on kind of this role that says, listen, I'm crazy if I think you're going to work for me the rest of your life. I mean, I'm just, she's at that age where she's probably got at least another position, if not two more positions
sure.
with other companies. And so now I have this obligation to help her. She's contributed to our group in a very valuable way. I'm grateful for what she's done, but I'm thinking of her now in her 50s, and what will she look back on and say, that changed me?
Yeah,
Those lessons that I learned working with Jon gave me a much more rewarding life
yeah,
experience.
yeah. It's
And
beautiful.
yeah, and so when you do that, what I've noticed is when you really invest like that in people, they stay with you. You
Yeah,
know, I mean, because we can always get more money someplace else,
yeah,
but the relationship and the value that we perceive and that others perceive of us doesn't always come along. And you've
right.
probably had jobs like I've had where, yeah, the pay was okay, but God, I got treated kind of like crap for
Yeah.
a number of years. So you don't want that.
Right. Well,
So
the loyalty to the company goes away immediately, and then it's a
mhm.
means to an end, to fulfillment. Yeah. No, I love what you're talking about. I want to do a mini business course, 3-part mini business course with you.
Okay.
And I want to do it on setting intentions, like you talked about earlier. It's,
Hmm.
one of the things I find, Jon, is when you can pause for a moment, which I think is really difficult for people today, especially in a post-COVID world, and
Hmm.
you can pause and you talk about building, a personal development plan. But really, if you can pause on a daily basis for even 30 seconds, 60 seconds to set intention for the day, a meeting, how you interact, how you show up, how you lead your people, I think it can make a world of difference, instead of remaining on autopilot. So if you were to give a 3-part business course, mini business course on how to move with intention, what would number 1 of 3 be?
Well, I think that you first have to establish, and this is probably the most difficult part, and that is you have to establish what you want and who you are.
Yeah,
And that takes reflection.
yeah,
And that isn't that's something that has to be reevaluated at least once a year.
yeah,
And and I went through this exercise. I ignored it for years. I knew about it, but here's the thing. People think they can do it all in their head. And until you sit down with the intention of coming up with a personal vision statement and a set of values that you are going to commit your life to, that
right.
you believe in, and then write those down. I have a checklist I go through every morning and I've been doing it for years. So I know exactly what's on that list, but I still use the checklist because it forces me to go through each step. And that first step is what is your purpose? What is
Yeah.
your vision of what you're doing? And then this set of values that I go through, and then I take each of the. I've got 7 values, and I take each of them, and I commit to today. I'm going to be conscious and intentional about this one particular value. Maybe faith,
Yeah.
and so I'm going to be conscious of it. And so I think that's a very important part, to actually write things down and go through the checklist every day.
Yeah. I love it. So what you want and who you are, connecting with the
Mhm.
values, and write things down. What would number 3 be?
Number 3 is reflection
Mm.
on. I mark off on my calendar every day, at the end of the day, an hour, and it says daily reflection.
Yeah.
And it basically says, how did you do?
Yeah.
Every winning coach gets the team together, whether they win the game or lose it, they get them together and they do a review. What
Yeah.
did we do well? Where do we need to improve?
Yeah.
And imposing that on yourself every day is I think, for at least for me personally, very important to make tomorrow, albeit incrementally better, but make tomorrow better.
Yeah. I love that. One of the things I do every morning is I sit down and I have a journal in my on my computer, and
Mhm.
I have a reminder in my calendar it says set intention for the day. And I set an intention for the day, and I kind of almost free write. So it forces me to kind of pause and get all the minutia thoughts out of my head. And it really makes a big difference in my day. And I think
Yeah.
um, it's a great way to start the day. Those are great. Those are great tools for everybody to think about. Think community. Even if you start doing it once a week or once a month, whatever that first incremental step is. Jon, let me ask you a question. You know, you shared a ton of great stuff today, and you've been in the industry. You're a seasoned professional, but even with everything that you've shared today, and the depth of things that you've talked about, where do you get stuck, and how do you get yourself unstuck?
Well, I do get stuck. Everybody does. I think that's a good learning, to
Yeah,
realize that you don't have to get an A+ in personal growth. You can, there'll be times that you end up going, man, I really dropped all the balls this time. And I think the thing that I would, that I use for myself is I have to, again, I make a sports analogy. It's a lot like Tom Brady having a bad game.
yeah,
You just got to get up the next day, and so we got to do it. We start over and we start executing again. So a lot of times, to help me with that is, I listen to a lot of audiobook,
yeah,
and a lot of times I'll try to lose myself in an audiobook. I have a time every morning that I put in about a half hour of exercise,
yeah,
and I use that time to also listen to a lot of audiobooks. So I can find that I can almost get lost in something else other than my personal reflection. So it helps
yeah,
me kind of reset my perspective. So then I can
yeah,
go back and pick up and not feel like I've really failed at anything. But it's not a matter of failure, it's a matter of moving forward. And some days you're going to make big steps forward, others it's going to be little tiny ones, and others you're going to step backwards. But as long as you get up and keep moving it forward, I think that helps
yeah,
me a lot.
yeah. You're talking about Tom Brady. He's got a great quote: "To be successful at anything, you don't have to be special. You just have to be what most people aren't: consistent, determined, and willing to work for it." And that
That's it.
is, I think, one of the key things. It's just about getting back up and being consistent. I find most people stop, and if you can be the top 1 or 5 or 10% that just follows through and is more consistent, it goes a really long way. So no, thank you for that. Mm-hmm. Let's do, Jon, a quick speed round. Okay. A book that's had the biggest impact on you.
John Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership.
I like it. A lot of Johns today.
Yeah.
Best piece of wisdom you've ever received.
People will do for love what they'll never do for money.
It's a good one. Finish this sentence. One thing everybody can do to elevate their culture is?
Be intentional about caring.
I love it. You know, I just realized, Jon, we didn't even really talk about your business. So tell everybody a little bit about your business, where they can connect with you and learn more about you. You know, on my show, I like to kind of talk to the person. And sometimes if we get lost in the person, I think that they can actually maybe generate more activity from just people getting to know you. But tell everybody a little bit about you and the company and how they can connect and learn more.
Great. Thank you, Jon. Texas State Optical is a network of independent private practice optometry. Texas State Optical Corporation, TSO Inc., for which I'm president, is a brand license company. So the brand was built over now 87 years. It was started in the 30s. And over time, that brand established, grew into and developed a value that consumers recognize as, you know, quality eye care, affordable, so forth. And so our company mission statement is we help people see the important things in life. You know,
that's great.
We don't sell glasses, we don't sell contacts. That's not our mission. Our mission is to help people see their son hitting a baseball at T-ball or handing off your daughter for weddings and things like that. And so the organization continues to be owned by the optometrist in the network. It's a member-owned cooperative in structure, and we help young ODs, young optometrists, be able to start their own practice. And most optometry has still a remnant of entrepreneurism in it, and but a lot of young ODs don't know how to, young optometrists, how to access. They don't know how to start a business. They don't know what's necessary, and so we have a turnkey system that can help them do that, and then they can license a retail consumer brand from us, and we can help them grow their business. You can find us at TSO.com, and that'll give a little information about us, and my contact information is there. So if there's any interest in actually having a conversation, they can get a hold of me there too.
That's great. Well, Jon, I appreciate your insights, your time, the heartful nature you brought to our talk today. I think it goes a long way. Thing community, I always like to extract, you shared a lot of things. I like to extract at least one thing, which is be intentional. Because when you're intentional, everything that we've talked about today, culture and all of the other things that you brought up have our move along faster when we're intentional with on how we're reflecting and thinking about what our next steps are. So Jon, I appreciate that. The community, you can reach Jon. Give me your website one more time, Jon.
TSO.com.
And you can reach me if you want to talk about any type of coaching or keynotes or anything of that nature at jondwoskin.com. Jon, this was great. I really appreciate your time and your insights. Thanks a ton. This was great.
Well, Jon, thank you for what you do by helping to pollinate this business community with positive growth and development. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you for a while.
Thanks. Me too. Stay on for just a bit, Jon. All right. Thanks, everybody.